let's look into the Malcolm X assassination and the CIA.
Kill Team 1, that was in the Audubon. Kill Team 2 was the shooter team. These are the 5 members who had the guns. They were in an Audubon with their guns only because Kill Team 1 did their job. Kill Team 2 is the shooter team. Benjamin Thomas, Leon Davis, Thomas Hare, William Bradley, and Wilbur or Kinley. Now, these are the 2 teams, Brother Zach, that I've identified. Kill Team 1, the Judas team, Malcolm's men. Kill Team 2, the shooter team, the ones with the guns. Both of those were in the Audubon, and these were the active participants in the execution of Malcolm X. Well, what about this whole 31 agencies thing? It would have behooved you, dear brother, to not rely on my presentations, but to actually engage my scholarship on the subject. What's this 31 agents? The 31 agencies are never described as a team in the Audubon, an active team. Kill Team 1 and Kill Team 2 were the active teams in the Audubon, responsible for the execution of Malcolm X. Now, there were agents in the Audubon just in case the civilian operation failed, just as in Memphis. There was a civilian team who was contracted to kill Martin Luther King, but there was a military intelligence team set in place in case the civilian team failed. The military intelligence team will complete the job. The exact same thing with the Malcolm X assassination. The 2 civilian teams were responsible for the execution, but just in case either one didn't do their job, there were agencies in the house ready to clean up the operation. Did I make this up? Am I defying reality by making such claim? Well, where did you get that from, Brother Dr. Wesley? It's the great Herman Ferguson, one of the most important witnesses to the assassination of Malcolm X. He was at the Audubon, and he is a very important source of information, as I'm sure Brother Zach would not deny. The importance of Ferguson. Herman Ferguson, his importance in terms of understanding the assassination of Malcolm X. Herman Ferguson said this: on the day of Malcolm's assassination, in that audience were representatives of all of those intelligence agencies. There were, I've heard it estimated, and I've seen a document that says there were 30 government agencies or agency representatives in there, in the audience, armed. But their role was to see this execution went down as planned, to ensure that it took place. And I suppose that the people who had been given the responsibility of doing it, if they had faltered in any way, there were other guns there as backup to take over and do it. This is what Herman Ferguson reveals. Now, this is my source, Brother Zach. I didn't make it up. Are you saying Herman Ferguson is playing with history? Are you charging the late Herman Ferguson of defying reality? Now, we don't have to rely solely on Herman Ferguson's testimony in this matter. We know that from the FBI and CIA documents, we know the agencies that targeted Malcolm X. Memos that the FBI sent out regarding Malcolm X, they were routed to the U.S. Secret Service chief, the director of naval intelligence, the Army's assistant chief of staff for intelligence, the chief of counterintelligence division for the Army Air Force Office of Special Investigations. They were directed to the Assistant Attorney General, Mr. Walter Legally. All of these agencies were part of the operation that targeted Malcolm X. We know this because they were getting instant updates of developments, Malcolm X developments by the FBI. So the fact that, so when Herman Ferguson says he read and heard that 30 government agencies were in the Audubon as backup, as plan B, if you will, we can name from other sources some of those 30 agencies that would have been up in there. So Herman Ferguson is not playing with history. Now, to drive the point home, Brother Zach, on February 23rd, you were on Brother Zaid Muhammad's platform, the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee platform. Herman Ferguson is a founding member of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. And while you were on the show with Zaid Muhammad, I want to remind you and us what Zaid Muhammad said of Herman Ferguson, the source of the claim that you say I'm defying reality by citing. This is what Zaid Muhammad says in his conversation with you. You did not object to this characterization of the late Herman Ferguson.
There's someone I want to acknowledge, and I'll begin my intro. I want to
go full screen, Brother Warren.
Founding
please.
Members of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee, who were also members of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, Muslim Mosque Incorporated, and some were also even in the Nation of Islam with Malcolm himself. Baba Herman Ferguson, long live Baba Herman Ferguson, one of the pioneers of the new African independence movement. The Malcolm X Commemoration Committee is very much in the stream and in the tradition of new African independence, one of Malcolm's many original contributions to original revolutionary thought. Baba Herman was the one who brought us together. In the aftermath of Malcolm's death, Herman had two operations, the Big Brotherhood Improvement Association out in Queens and the Jamaica Rifle and Pistol Club, taking the question of self-defense seriously. That became a training ground for a lot of young men and women who will ultimately go into and be responsible for the emergence of the New York chapter of the Black Panther Party. But Baba Herman Ferguson then became, as a consequence of his organizing efforts, a major target of COINTELPRO operations, and found himself being targeted for the conspiring to assassinate two civil rights leaders, right? And of course, that was insane and absurd. But of course, Baba Herman in the exile, where he went to Guyana, a young Latin American state, black-led, and helped build that organization's both military and educational infrastructure, and retired a full-fledged colonel from the new state of Guyana by virtue of those contributions, but came back to the United States in 1989 in an attempt to clear his name. Of course, the state being what the state is, they took Herman into custody, and he wound up joining the ranks of our political prisoners. But at some point, he found himself in front of a legendary judge from New York State called by the name of Judge Bruce Wright. Judge Bruce Wright looked at the absurdity of what Herman was charged with, and the fact that a man now in his 70s is still in prison, and ordered his release. Not missing a beat, in his 70s, Baba Herman pulled together some of his comrades and some of us when we became the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee.
So I just wanted to bring context there, brothers and sisters, with regards to what we're queuing up here with regard to the CIA and the Malcolm X assassination. This is Dr. Wesley Muhammad, his latest video on the Black God Protocol channel. Please check that channel out, subscribe, and take a look at it. This is actually specifically his response to Baba Zach Kondo, who appeared on I Mix What I Like. So shout out to Dr. Jared Ball as well. I interviewed him on Transatlantic Productions, and I hope to interview Dr. Muhammad on Transatlantic as well. But this is part of a larger conversation with regard to the assassination of Malcolm X. And one thing that Dr. Muhammad has done is written an excellent paper called Executive Action. So as it relates to the CIA and Malcolm X and why we should be really looking at these JFK papers, again, as it relates to Black people in America, the CIA had institutionalized assassination programs. And this is, and my source, again, is Dr. Muhammad's paper, Executive Action. The CIA operated covert assassination programs like ZR Rifle, a standing executive action capability, and Operation 40, a Cuba-focused hit squad. These programs trained operatives in political killings, including the use of 5-man commando teams. Here we have on the screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this specifically is not talking about the Malcolm X assassination, but this particular thing comes out of CIA, textbook CIA operations. A 1953 CIA manual, a study of assassination, provided guidelines for political killings, emphasizing operational secrecy and non-attributability to the United States. The CIA also had, there was also a domestic operations division. The CIA's Domestic Operations Division, led by James Angleton, illegally conducted domestic surveillance, infiltration, and assassinations despite the CIA's charter prohibiting domestic activities. The DoD collaborated with the FBI's counterintelligence program to target Black militants, including Malcolm X, through disinformation, informants, and violence. Malcolm X was a threat to U.S. foreign policy, brothers and sisters. Malcolm's efforts to internationalize the struggle for Black civil rights including his 1964 petitions to the United Nations and alliances with African leaders, directly challenged the United States' neo-colonial interests in Africa. The CIA and State Department viewed his exposure of the United States' racial hypocrisy as damaging to the Cold War diplomacy, prompting efforts to neutralize him. Neutralize is a euphemism for get rid of him. White House and intelligence coordination. President Lyndon B Johnson and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover pressured agencies to silence Malcolm X. A 1964 CIA memo revealed the White House official Benjamin Reed urged the CIA to act, claiming Malcolm had, quote unquote, renounced his U.S. citizenship, justifying foreign target protocols.